Hi again, everybody. Welcome to the podcast, Love Letters to Pam. Of course, you're maybe watching too on the YouTube channel, Traveling with Jack and Pam. You know the drill. We appreciate you watching or listening, however you may be getting this content. Hey, I've about determined that this program has turned into not so much all the time some advice on how to get through tough times and things like that and how to face life, head first, so to speak. But it's also about storytelling. And I hope you don't mind that I sometimes just like to share stories of things that happen to me that seem sometimes unexplainable. Now, you may notice I'm on a golf course. It's a Sunday afternoon. That's the reason the hair's all wind blown and may not look all pretty. Not that I ever did look that pretty. But anyway, it's evening now, and just had a terrible round of golf, though. Those of you who follow professional golf, I felt like David Duval when his career just fell apart and he just got the yips and he just couldn't make the shots. And boy, it was a tough day out there. And I actually joked with someone. I said, you know what? This is one of those days that I might reverse that old saying of saying, a bad day fishing beats a good day at work. Well, today, I don't know, a good day at work may have beat this bad day of golf. It was just not a good day. But hey, count my blessings. The weather is beautiful. I got palm trees in the background. The temperature, not bad at all. It's in the 90s today here in the Valley of the Sun, but with that low humidity, when that sun goes down, it cools off just beautifully. A couple of stories, though, that I did want to share with you. And the first one has to do with the other night I went to an Arizona State baseball game. They were playing Oregon State, and you guys and girls may remember I've got some stories about Pam and I when we had season tickets at Oregon State, and I've got one of those God moments that took place at a basketball game with a little girl at Oregon State. If you've never heard that story, you need to look it up on the channel or look it up on the podcast. Okay, I think it was titled something about God sends an angel at a basketball game. It was truly a remarkable story. And but this story has to do with going to a baseball game between, as I mentioned, Arizona State and Oregon State. Uh, First of all, I got my ticket, and it'd been a pretty good Saturday. I just had our son, his wife, and her parents all out for a big visit, and then they left for the airport on Saturday morning. And of course, I kind of had that little empty, alone feeling that you get. But I kind of powered through it, and throughout the day, I got outside and did a short trail and did a lunch. And like I said, I had this ticket to the baseball game, so I knew I was going to go. And usually I have press credentials lots of times for sporting events and such through my work. But this time I thought I just want to sit in the stands, not think about work, not produce any content, nothing like that. So I go to the game, and first of all, there's somebody in my seat. And it's a group of people, and I went, oh, don't worry, there's a couple of empty seats back here. So I moved back a couple of rows and I sat down. And I sat there for about a half an inning, and then a group comes up and goes, we're sorry, you're in our seat. And I'm like, oh, brother. And so then I started thinking, if Pam was here, it'd be the two of us, and this would have never been an issue, really, because we'd have two seats, and I would have hesitated to just take the two seats. But me by myself, I'm being accommodating, fine, I'll move. Well, then this guy, and he had a couple of, looked like could have been his son or grandson, and a girl sitting next to him. He goes, hey, sit down here. And I said, well, okay. And then I realized, I went, oh, actually, this is my assigned seat. I'd been skipping around the whole time. So I sat down and I said, I wish I had two seats. He goes, well, why do you say that? I said, oh, it's nothing. He goes, no, why'd you say that? And I said, well, if my wife was here, it just seems like it'd be easier, but she had to go off to heaven, so she's not. And he goes, oh, man, he says, I feel you. I go, what do you mean? And here we go, another one of those God appointments. He goes, well, I lost my wife 10 years ago. Oh, goodness. His name was John. And John and I had a nice little visit there. We didn't get into a big, long conversation, but we certainly connected because we both had experienced that significant loss of our wife. And it ends up that the young man that was with him there was actually his grandson, who they had been raising, he said, since he was 18 months old. And now he was a grown-up big boy, and had the young lady with him there. And again, it was a really nice visit that we had there at the Arizona State baseball game. And so again, that was just one of those blessings that I didn't see coming that indeed happened. And it was really, really nice. Now then, the second thing that happened was actually here on the golf course. I was playing by myself because it was late in the day. The course wasn't crowded, anything like that, and I'm making pretty good time. And then I get up to about I don't know, it was the third or fourth hole. I believe it was the fourth hole. And there was a guy up on the green, and he waved at me like, "No, come on through, come on through." And those of you who are golfers know, well, no, if you're on the green, I'm not going to hit now. Go ahead, putt out. He was insistent, though. He just kept saying, "No, come on through, come on through." So I'm like, well, okay. So I hit the ball, and thank goodness it was one of my few decent shots of the day. It caught the edge of the green on the approach, and then I putted out, and I looked at him and I said, "Hey," I said, "you really don't have to let me through. I am in no hurry." And he says, "No," he says, I need to be out here." He says, "This is going to be my prayer time." He said, "I've got to talk to God." He says, "I've got to get things figured out." And I told him, I said, "Well, tell me about it, brother." I said, That's what I do too." I said, "I'm out here all the time." And he asked me, he goes, "Well, what are you talking to God about?" And I said, "Well," I said, "I talk to God about that I wish my wife was here instead of in heaven right now, because she'd be playing golf with me." And I said, I miss her being here, and I talk to her constantly, but I said, golf's a good thing for me." And he goes, "Well," he says, "my wife is still here, but," he says, we've got a lot of problems." And he says, "That and my children." And he says, "I'm just really concerned." And he says, "So I'm out here." And he says, "I find that in golf that I can pray and talk and connect with God." And I said, "Wow." I said, I said, "What I want to do," I said, "I'd like to pray for you and your wife and your kids as well." I said, "How long have you guys been married?" And he goes, "Well, coming up on 30 years. And he asked me, how long had I been married? And I said, "We were married over 30 years as well. We met in high school." And so we exchanged names, and I promised him that I would pray for him and his family, and you can bet that I'm going to do that. And then we both agreed that this was not an accidental meeting, but it was one of those divine appointments that only God could have arranged. And some of you sometimes watch these and probably think, well, what's the point? What's the message here? It's the same old, same old. It's you got to get out there and expose yourself to people. That's the bottom line. You just have to. No matter how hard it is, and you may be alone, you got to get out there and you got to get in front of people. And some might ask, "Well, I can't believe that you always share about losing your wife." And I don't always that's not the first thing I'm going to say or talk about. It just seems that sometimes it works its way into conversations. And let's face it, if I didn't share that bit of information, these things that happen would not come to fruition as well. Because I think people who are going through tough times, whether it be the loss of a spouse or problems in a marriage or problem with the kids or a job or things like that, people do want to talk about it, but they're uncomfortable bringing it up unless someone kind of helps start the conversation. So I guess you could say sometimes it's a conversation starter. So maybe think about that. Think about ways that you can be a conversation starter in your life when you're out there and about. When you see somebody that maybe seems to be a little bit down, go over and try and encourage them and say, "Hey, you having a tough day? Can I pray for you? Is there anything that I could do?" And lots of times they may blow you off, but those few times that they don't, trust me, it's going to be a blessing that you've made that connection. So that's about it. Hey, thanks again for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And you know what we say, make it a great day, better yet, or better tomorrow. And bye now from this beautiful little spot I've got here on the golf course.